Hello, welcome everybody. I hope my voice can be heard well from your side. Patrick, Omnia, can you hear me?
I can hear you well.
Very nice. Thank you very much for joining us today. I would like to welcome you all to this online seminar titled as The Importance of Measurement and Verification in Energy Performance Contracts. This seminar is organized by EODER, Energy Efficiency and Management Association of Turkey, within the framework of EVO, the Efficiency Value Organization, where they held the week of Measurement and Verification Week today, which is started on the 24th of October till the 30th of October. As I mentioned today, our seminar will be on the importance of the measurement and verification in energy performance contracts. And I would like to introduce you our guests. We are together with Omnia Halavani. I hope I express it very well.
Yes, that is correct.
Omnia is the co-CEO of GRFN Global. And today, Patrick is also with us, Patrick Morelli, and he's the International Projects Manager of Progetti Internazionali. So I would like to start with Patrick. Patrick, please, could you give us some information about yourself and start your presentation, please?
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm in Federesco. Federesco is the Italian association of Esco companies, mainly small, medium enterprise in this sector in Italy. And I'm the head of the responsible of the international projects within Federesco. So mainly cooperation, international cooperation projects, and also innovation and research and development projects in Horizon Europe. Can I share my screen? Tell me if you can see clearly.
We can see your presentation now.
Okay. I will put it full screen. So I would like to talk a little bit about our association, Federesco, our mission, let's say, and then to enter more in deep in the Esco models and the contracting, so the energy performance contract in relation to MMV. Federesco includes around 80 Escos since 15 years. It represents and promotes the energy efficiency industry in Italy. Among our main scopes, the promotion of the culture of energy efficiency, first of all, and energy saving, but also of the benefits of the third-party financing mechanism that is also regulated in Italy by several laws since 2008. Recently, we are working more intensively on the energy transition concepts and towards the energy communities new scenarios that also depend on the recent evolution of the European directives. And then, of course, to promote the energy performance contract scheme in all sectors. To do this, an important work is in capacity building for the associated, but not only, also to promote the transformation of energy efficiency services into energy service companies. To do this, our association is participating to several workshops, work tables with also public institutions, ministry level, but also at European level. We are working a lot on promoting public incentives, but also private financing opportunities, and furthermore on the standardization processes. Some of the partners are, for who knows the, let's say, the Italian context in terms of energy, GSE, that is the main authority in terms of renewable incentives, Enea, some important banks, ANCI, Association of Municipality, Green Building Council, and of course also EIODER, since we have a project with EIODER within a partnership between Italy and Turkey to promote Esco model and EPC. Some figures, I think it's important to understand what's going on in Italy. We have more than 1,000 Escos, but those Escos are certified Esco, in the sense that there is a register that will consent to this Esco to benefit of some incentives mechanism. The distribution of the Escos in Italy are for more than 60% on industry and civil sector. If we talk about which kind of core activity they do, we can see that 46% are dedicated to energy efficiency consultancy services, but also 25% on plant installation, then equipment fabrication, and also energy supply. Talking about the civil sector, we can see that 44 are focused on tertiary and 25% on public buildings. It's interesting also to understand the composition of and the turnover of the Esco market. Well, the turnover reached 3.7 billion euro in Italy. This figure is fixed to the end of 2018. What's happened after in the last 2 years represents a sort of freezing of all markets, also the market of the Esco, of course. And we hope to start again with this 8-10% rate of growth per year that we can observe since 2016 in Italy for the whole sector. The composition in terms of specific dimensions of the Esco companies, as you can see from this picture, we have the 10% of the total Escos as a turnover that is over 25 million per year, and represent the 64% of the market. The 90% of the Esco are mainly under this threshold of 25 million, and they represent the large part of the Escos in Italy. But it's more complex than this, and I think the picture that we can describe for Italy is valuable also in many other countries in Europe, because the energy efficiency market is not only a market for Escos, as you well know. If you look at the energy efficiency investment in Italy, this reached the volume of around 6.7 billion euro, and within this very larger market, only 12% are managed by Esco, in the sense of a certified, registered Esco. 70% of these investments were managed by internal operators. At the same time, you can say that also that the Esco's market is not only EPC, it's not only energy performance contract. If you can see from these figures that there are only 35% of the energy service company market in Italy is made by EPC contracts. 42% is on consulting project, and we have also a large quota of white certificates. Some more words on these kind of incentives. White certificates are energy efficiency certificate, so certified savings that are achieved by doing specific interventions mainly in the industry, but also in transport and civil sector. These certificates can be are resellable through a regulated market, and the buyers, there are large energy DSO that have mandatory targets for buying each year a specific quantity of these white certificates. So it represents a market with a sort of issuance at the beginning, and then possibility to transfer this credit. So it's a market of white certificates. It is important to notice, and all my presentation will then focus from this moment on MMV aspects or tips, let's say. To obtain these white certificates, it's very important the measurements. The issuance of these certificates, once an energy efficiency intervention has been realized, can last between 3 and 10 years, but it has to be monitored. And then the GSC, the authority, will issue each year white certificates. I think I will go faster on this because I'm mainly general concepts and most of you already know, but the definition of Esco, it's of course within the larger set of companies that provide energy service, but there are specific features that we like to highlight. Features that represent the job of the Esco. So the Esco guarantees energy savings, and these, of course, it means to introduce MNV procedures. Then the remuneration of the Esco is directly tied to the energy savings achieved. Furthermore, the Esco can finance or can assist in arranging financing the operation of an energy system by providing savings guarantee. Finally, the Esco retains an ongoing operational role in measuring and verifying the savings over the financing, or let's say the contract term. There are European directives talking about Esco, of course. The role of the Esco is becoming more and more important. If you think to the target that now with the Green Deal, the targets are raised from 40% to 55% of emission reduction by 2030. You can imagine how important is the role of the Esco in this strategy. So the European directive defines the Esco as a personal subject that delivers energy service and energy service improvement measures by next to the customer, the users, and this is very important, accepts some degree of financial risk in so doing. So the payment of the services delivered is basically wholly or in part on the achievement of the energy efficiency improvement and on the meeting of agreed performance criteria. So it is in the definition of the Esco, the energy performance contract as an important scope, and we are all working with the association and to increase the use of these important instruments. And the energy performance contract means verifying and monitoring during the whole term of the contract. Let's go to the sources of financing. So talking about Esco models, of course, in the first case, the Esco is financing. You can use often leasing instrument, more rarely equity. But in this case, it is important to know that there is a role for measurement and verification to control the efficiency target. But Furthermore, and it is here very important to have a MNV when it's the energy user, it's the customer that is financing with his own internal funds, or as we can see with the third scheme, with the third-party financing. The third-party financing refers to the debt financing, of course. It can be mainly two schemes in this model. One scheme where a bank or a financial institutions is financing the Esco. So the Esco is borrowing the financial resources, and in the other case, it is the customer that takes a loan. And it is this kind of scheme is backed often by an energy savings guarantee agreement with also the Esco involved. Of course, in both cases, payments are tied to performance, and these represent the crucial role of the MNV operation. Other contract types. To understand that at our best the market, we have to see that the leasing and then the chauffage contracts are the most commonly used contract type. They are not really energy performance contracts, but they have also MNV needs. Energy performance contract, it is the ideal scheme, of course, but it's not yet so common as you can believe. Also, when there are ESCOs involved in the business. Only a few countries in Europe have this market that is dominated by EPC. Among these, Austria, Czech Republic, but also even Germany, where it is very popular, the EPC, and it is much strongly promoted. It represents only 10% of the market. Well, the chauffage contract is an extreme form of energy management outsourcing. This kind of contract gives strong incentives to the provider to supply effective and efficient services, and this means it is important in this contract to measure and verify the efficiency and the savings results. Furthermore, the boot contract it's mainly with a special purpose vehicle that will design, then build, then finance, and then will own the energy efficiency equipment. It will operate, and in this case, there will be, of course, periodic measures, measurements, and verification. Typically, are long-term supply contract. In some case, there could be some share between also the provider and the customer. There are very interesting and innovative schemes of boot contract in which we find that both customer and provider have a share of the SPV that will operate the energy efficiency interventions. That means that there is a share of responsibilities and risks also. This is very important. Let's go to the energy performance contract. Well, most of you already know those schemes, but let's see that in those schemes, one of the shared saving models is one of the most important schemes for APC. It means that the Esco is assuming both performance and credit risks. The payment is always based on obtained savings, so the MNV operations are very important, of course. Then the guaranteed saving models. In this case, as you can see from the slide, the bank will borrow to the client, not to the Esco. So in this case, the Esco does not assume the credit risk, but it assumes the entire design, the installation, and also the saving performance risk. And also in this case, MNV play a crucial role. Furthermore, how to enforce this kind of contract, how to enlarge their use in this market, but also in countries where there is a lack of trust, let's say, on this kind of instruments. For example, one important way it is to add an insurance package that can be a credit package or a technical package of insurance to enforce, cover the technical risk. Other model that are, let's say, a form of enforcement of the Esco model are what we call the super Esco, that will work mainly on aggregation of projects. This means reduction of the transaction costs that are very heavy in this case, in the case of the EPC business model. But this can be obtained through standardization. So the standardization, not only of the design and of the contract themselves, but also of the procedure of MMV, and these there are important actions ongoing, will support the aggregation of projects, and this means that will be a larger use of the EPC model. The discussion, also the international level, it is on what is the best strategy, which is the best strategy to aggregate project or to also aggregate companies, so SMEs, or aggregate with temporary scope aggregations. That means that giving to small, medium enterprise, let's say, more strength also in accessing credit. Well, of course, we have to talk of the barriers, because it's not at all a perfect market. A lot of job is still to do. There are several studies and researchers at the international level that identified the main barriers for the Esco market. So in the first block here, we can see in green the financing barriers, so mainly low level, of course, of energy prices in a country, but also long investment payback periods. But I think the most important one is the lack of information and awareness that produce also a lack of trust in the Esco model. And this is a work that is very important within the financial institutions than the finance sector. In blue, you can see barriers that as let's say, linked to the MMV. Lack of consumption and performances data, lack of standardized procedures, lack of monitoring and verification protocols. But we know that EPMVP, for example, is a very important and an excellent solution to solve this kind of problem. Then there are also problems, and these can change by country, that are problems coming from specific sectors. For example, in Italy, not only in Italy, it's quite complicated to implement Esco project in the public sector. But we see also barriers in the private building sector, and we talk a little bit more about these. This is a matrix that you can find on coming from a European study on the Esco sector. That for each column it show you in each country in Europe which are considered the main barriers. So you can see the situation is very different. In green you have some countries where there are less barrier, and so a more higher level of trust in the Esco approach, in the Esco model. I was saying about the residential buildings. It is important to notice how important it is the role of incentives. Everyone often say that to solve this problem, to unblock the sector of the and also the Esco market, we need incentives. But we have to keep in mind that not all incentives are the same For example, we have a recent strong incentives for the residential buildings in Italy. This is called super bonus that gives the taxation of 110%. But these kind of incentives quite complicated. Now we have not the time to explain how it works technically. But the point is that this incentive does not foresee efficiency monitoring nor periodic verifications. So the quality of the result can be, let's say, poorer than lower than what we can expect, and that can be a serious problem. Of course, in the residential sector, the fragmentation is also another important problem.
Patrick, can we please sum up in 5 minutes?
Sorry?
Can you please sum up in 5 minutes?
Yeah. I will go faster on this part. Just to talk of positive aspects, so what we call it enablers of the Esco model. And we like to highlight 4 enablers factor. So the very high competence of the Esco's company, and so an Esco is perceived by customers having a high technical and design skill, and the APC approach, the APC model is very complex, and so this high competence it's a need. Then the responsibility also that is borne by the Esco. A company will produce the APC contract, will solve administrative bureaucratic issues, will take care of measurement and also of management. And this is generally appreciated by customers that can understand how this is important. Here, the role of MMV is very, very important, of course. Then obligations, of course, can be important enablers, as we know. For example, obligation on producing audits and energy audits for the energy-intensive companies. And 4 important enablers are the incentives management. Reinforcing white certificate mechanism could be an important plus, but also open to the possibility to transfer tax credit to the Esco client. In the second part of this presentation, I will go really quickly. It's just some example of European and international project where we are working on the enforcement of the APC. I would like to highlight transparency that produce a European code of conduct that for energy performance contracting that you can see on the website. For who is interested, the APC Plus gives a procedure to aggregate and standardize the project. That is very important. Quality, it's on the quality, on the assurance, on the guarantee instruments. It's also an enforcement of the APC. The results gives you let's say also a good answer on MMV. So for improving quality and trust, the MMV represents a lever. It's not at all a barrier. And finally, some just final consideration on the future, that the volume of the energy efficiency service market is foreseen to double in the next year until 2025, reaching for all Europe 45 billion as a volume of the market. And here you can see also the share among the different parts of the market. I think there is a last slide from my side, and it is on digitalization. This is very important to improve the MMV. To have a greater reliability in energy savings, it's important to have a streamlined measurement and the verification protocols. So the digitalization that is now a tendency also in the market, as you can see from the figures, with an additional volume, an increasing of 50% more than 50% for software. It can include, for example, smart meters, of course, active energy management system in industry, and remote monitoring platform that should aid Esco and EPC market to develop in the future. Thanks to you all, and it's all from my side.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for this very interesting presentation. It was really great to hear the news from your side. I know that you will be attending another meeting or webinar or seminar, something, so you have to leave us. So thank you very much again for your presence here. Hope to see you again next time.
Thank you to you. Thank you to you. I will be with you as I can, and then I will leave.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So I would like to welcome also Javier Martinez Bellotto from ANIS, and he is the Sustainable Finance Manager. I think I'm translating in a correct way. So he will be also with us in our meeting. But now I would like to give the word to Omnia for his presentation. Omnia, could you please introduce yourself briefly, and then we would like to hear your presentation, please.
Yes, sure. Hello, everyone from Dubai. So my name is Omnia. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO at Griffin Global, which is a multidisciplinary consultancy. And our mission is basically to realize client visions while sustaining the built environment. My experience, I bring a lot of experience in the energy efficiency consultancy services. And I've been involved in retrofit management of multiple large-scale projects and covering all stages from audit, tendering, implementation supervision, all the way to measurement and verification, as well as consulting on some policy-making technical advisory services. I'm a certified CMVP professional by EVO, and that's my brief. I'll share my screen and let me know when you can see it. Is it visible now?
Yes, we can see you, Omnia.
All right, perfect. So today, thank you very much for having me in this MNV week, and I'll cover the topic of disputes and litigation, bringing our experience into that from the projects that we have done. I'll give just a brief introduction about the company first. So as I said, we're multidisciplinary. So we provide engineering, design, solutions, and advisory services. And our team is made of designers, engineers, and technical consultants. And we take pride in the team certifications that we have as a pool, as well as having multiple trainings within the management of the firm, including certified CMVP or certified measurement and verification trainers, which is the topic of this webinar. We're affiliated with ASHRAE, SIBSI, the Emirates Green Building Council. We're ISO certified, and we have accumulated quite a few awards over the year. Those are the 5 verticals that we operate on: energy efficiency, sustainability, engineering, interior, and architecture. And today the focus is on energy efficiency, obviously. This is a view of some of the large-scale projects that we have done, and I hope that it gives everyone insights about the size of the Esco or retrofit market in the GCC in general. We've done project with the Department of Energy in Abu Dhabi, which actually got multiple awards from SIBSI and the Association of Energy Engineers. We're currently doing retrofit management for Adar properties that involves over 200 buildings. For TCOM, which involves over 160 buildings. We're also the M&V consultant for the Super Esco here in Dubai, which is called Ittihad Esco. We've worked with Amar previously. We've worked with Nakheel multiple times, first a couple of years ago on energy auditing of 300 of their buildings, and now we are managing the retrofit of their malls and one hotel. We've also worked in the district cooling field, so with EmiCool, retrofitting district cooling plants. So our experience is not only when it comes to buildings, it also covers industrial or water and wastewater facilities, and so on. And there are multiple projects in the region, and it's quite a market to work in the energy retrofit. So I'll go into a little bit of history of MNV in general and Escos and retrofits. So basically, this is maybe with a focus on the US. So in the 1970s and the 80s, the most prominent type of contract was the shared savings. So how does that work? The Esco basically invests, they install the ECMs at their own cost. So there is no upfront cost for the clients. And the Escos, they get paid as a proportion of the energy bill savings. This concept is still used until today. It is, however, more regulated. Back then, the flows that were seen out of this contract type was that the energy price risk. So let's say the energy prices fall, then the risk is affiliated only on the Esco, and it jeopardizes their expected savings and their returns. The other major flow that was seen was that the changes that were done by customers and facilities, they were not communicated to Escos, and of course this drove up energy usage, and this is basically one of the reasons that exemplified the importance of establishing an MNV protocol. Come the 1990s, how the market regulated, and it continues to evolve, but the 1990s was a big change in the market. So first of all, a guideline on how to conduct MNV was published by the North American Measurement and Verification Protocol, which is now known as the International Measurement and Verification Protocol, or IMVP. It has 4 options for measurement and verification. Option A, B, and C. A and B, they involve retrofit isolation. So you isolate the retrofit and you meter it. Option C is a whole building, whole facility consumption. And D involves simulation. So the introduction of the IPMVP, it largely solved the risk of the changes in facilities that I've mentioned previously, among other complications associated with savings certification. The second major change that was seen in the 1990s was the evolvement of guaranteed savings. In guaranteed savings, the CapEx is paid by the customer, and the Esco guarantees the amount of savings that the contract is entered into. This solved a big part of the energy price risk, because the energy price is now levied to the customer as the Esco commits to a given amount of energy saving, not the monetary savings. Now moving ahead, so what are the typical issues in a retrofit project? Those are typical lessons learned from our projects. So we normally see that clients are always pushing for the IGA, or the investment grade audit by the Esco, to be done in such a short time. They're underestimated, and this restricts the Esco's ability to investigate the savings potential properly, and restricts their time to assess the existing system's condition. Of course, this all affects the project in the end. Existing equipment conditions, so frequently those are not investigated, and they result in issues during the implementation stage. For example, an ECM that was identified, once you assess the existing condition, it's not possible to implement, or you need further changes in the systems. Like, for example, if you have one of your ECMs to install a VFD, you need to make sure that the motor is compatible. Otherwise, you need to change the motor as well. This, of course, increases the price and puts risk on the project. We experience a lot of lack of coordination between the Esco and the other stakeholders. And this causes delays and disputes and nuisances. Lack of coordination when it comes to site activities by the Esco. So the Esco does not report their site activities in a proper way. As well as from the client side, sometimes there is no transparency or timely information with any facility physical or use change, which affects the Esco's project largely. Another issue that we encounter is with the planning, especially when working with a large number of buildings. Normally, the building teams are at different stages. Some of the buildings are done with the IGA, some of them have entered the EPC. And if the planning is not done properly, and if there is no proper project management team on the project, this results in delays, and the implementation takes longer than expected. Maintenance procedure is another typical issue that we see, and they play an important role in the cost of implementation. So when the Esco does not account for those for those costs, it results in the savings being overestimated, and there's a lot of gaps in the scope of work. The ECM selection as well is another one. We see a lot of fictional ECMs sometimes, but the other side is that also it has to consider the equipment condition, the savings impact, how does it affect the building value, and is it a proven technology or not. And the last one is delays, which is of course common not only in Esco projects, but it is a big part of as well there. And our advice is always that contracts should adopt penalty in case of installation and commission is not done as per the duration stipulated. Moving on to actual project examples that we have been involved in, whether they are litigation disputes or even examples from projects where we managed to solve the dispute between the Esco and the customer without getting to the court. This is a detailed example of a project. So the precedence was that the Esco was barely adhering to the IPMVP requirements. They were reporting savings that are much higher than what was being achieved. The owner had no consultant on board, and they have no experience when it comes to this. They did the mistake, of course, in approving what the Esco is reporting without any MNV being conducted. An actual example was that basically they were mentioning option B as the MNV, but they were only using the deemed savings based on the nameplate, and which is not accurate. There was no metering done. Now the issue that happened later was that the project owner, they noticed that their bills did not reduce, and on top of that they were paying savings to the Esco. And the problem later escalated to arbitration. It was tens of millions of dollars case. This was quite a large project. It was more than 100 buildings, and many of them are high-rise, and there were data centers and very highly technical buildings. And this is when we got on board. So they got us as a third-party arbitrator, and we managed to solve this between them, before it reached court, but it was eventually settled. So should the owner, if he had hired an independent party from the beginning to review those reported savings and oversee the whole retrofit, especially that they do not have the in-house experience, this could have been avoided. Another example where those were across quite a few projects. So the Esco, for example, were applying adjustments to the fresh air handling unit energy consumption due to increased operating time. And the Esco calculated the extra energy consumed by the FHU based on the nameplate, not on the measurements. And this has two major mistakes. First of all, that it is rarely the case where the nameplate rating matches the actual performance. And this would normally result in higher reported savings than what the actual savings are. And the other mistake is that this is not as per IPMVP requirements, as IPMVP requires measurements to be done rather than relying on nameplate ratings. In another example, the Esco did not apply occupancy adjustments when the facility occupancy reduced, resulting in high reported savings. And if it was the other way around, if, for example, the facility or the owner did not report increased occupancy, then the reported savings would be affected as well. So due to the fact that less people were actually using energy and water in the facility, it comes naturally that the energy and water use will reduce. This is not attributed to the ECMs that the Esco had applied. Another one was on water savings. We later found out that all the water fixtures have been replaced, along with the reducers and aerators that the Esco have installed. Although this is not an Esco fault, it's definitely a customer side fault where they did not report those changes, or maybe miscoordination between their internal teams. But if a good verification process was in place, this could have been highlighted, of course, much earlier. In other types of projects which involve the audits and M&V stages, so in many cases, Esco energy audit was not thorough, and changes led to smell and reduced indoor air quality. This is something that we do not like to see in retrofit projects, as the aim is to reduce energy, but with no adverse effects on the building itself and the occupancy and the occupants. In other projects, like the energy model that was used for audits and adjustments, were not as per IPMVP. And an example where the Esco savings were challenged by the clients, and that led to appointment of third-party consultant to review the audit contract M&V plan and reports, leading to delays and additional costs compared to having a consultant on board from day one. So it is always advised that the clients would have an expert with them from day one, rather than going through the whole process and then adding a consultant, which would naturally delay the project. Now, so what does an energy consultant do in general? ESCOs are known, clients are there, so what is the role of the energy consultant? So an energy consultant can support the project owner in managing the retrofit projects. The client is on top, the consultant comes as a mediator between the client and the Esco on the project. And what an experienced consultant will provide is in-depth technical and commercial expertise, improved commercial terms, structured project delivery approach. Maybe they can facilitate access to funding if needed, problem solving as well, unbiased and third-party measurement and verification as per IPMVP. And this all reduces risks associated with legal disputes, and so on. So an energy consultant by nature should be independent. They should protect both the Esco and the project owner. The target of an energy consultant should be the success of the project. So we tend to manage and run projects in a streamlined manner. Our aim is to avoid future conflicts between the both parties. We make sure that energy efficiency is attained and vetted. And we help both the Esco and the customer in preparing a robust M&V plan that is as per the international protocol and that is fair to everyone, and make sure that the M&V activities are actually performed properly. And having an energy consultant in many countries, it's actually a requirement in public programs. In terms of IPMVP, the IPMVP states that the owner may need an independent verifier to review the savings report. And the independent verifier is to be helpful to ensure measurements validity and prevent conflicts. And if the conflicts arise during the reporting period, then the independent verifier can help resolve those conflicts. And also in accordance with the IPMVP, the independent verifiers are typically engineering consultants, and they should have experience and knowledge in ECMs, M&V, and energy performance contracting. So the benefits, to summarize, of having a third-party vetter or an expert on board: who benefits? The project owners benefit, and the Escos benefit, and the project as a whole. The project owner will benefit by having an advisor right from the project conception stage. You would wonder what the Esco would benefit. The Esco would benefit by having an energy consultant that is unbiased. They are experienced, so they help in educating the project owner to make the ends meet, and managing the whole process, and eventually reaching best approach and best industry practices. So the project, in the end of the day, is what gains. The main aim is to ensure the success of the project with minimum risk on both parties or all parties involved, and with maximized project savings. And of course, ensuring that the correct approach for the retrofit is followed. If we look at it by stage and by stakeholders, so the project owner, what would they gain under project management? The consultant can manage the RFP and the proper selection of Escos. We can provide insights on the local requirements, international protocols, best industry practices, lessons learned, and we can advise on commercial, legal, and contractual terms. Data management especially in large projects. This becomes very critical. Assessing Esco capabilities, project coordination, and even identifying synergies. So we can guide the project owners on how they can benefit with synergies in maintenance, ECMs, metering, etc. During tendering, we make sure that the savings are not exaggerated, and optimizing the project CapEx and OpEx, and as well established and systematic and widely adopted evaluation matrices, which both the client and the ESCOs are normally comfortable with. And during implementation and measurement and verification, supervision and verification. Now the ESCOs...
Can we please sum up in 5 minutes, please?
Yes, I've only got a few slides left.
Thank you.
The ESCOs gain basically a client advisory service. So the consultant would educate the owners on best practices and make the ends meet. A fairness advocate, unbiased, and this has to be a main criteria in any consultant to support a fair payment structure. Moderating client requirements and handling key concerns, data management as well. We make sure that the ESCO gets all the info needed from the onset. They don't need to waste time with collecting the data and going into extensive, let's say, admin data collection works. Conflict resolution, and we always try to do that before it reaches litigation or court. They also gain peer review, so consultants can be an extended arm for the ESCO to make sure that their assumptions is correct and on a peer-to-peer level. And of course, there is potential for partnerships, so ESCOs themselves can hire the consultants to assist them with their projects. In the end, the retrofit project gain better risk management, timely delivery, vetted results, and a structured, systematic, and well-controlled project flow, which in the end of the day would mean maximized project benefit and reduced risk for all stakeholders. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Omnia, for your presentation. It was really very interesting to hear your words. We have a question for you. Let me just very quickly forward it to you. Mr. Serkan Emin asked the question, and he wants to learn if is it mandatory to have a measurement and the verification process handled by an independent energy consultant or a third party?
Definitely. The IPMVP always advises having, first of all, certified professionals, so CMVP, and it is always advised to have a third-party verification.
Okay. Thank you very much, Omnia, again for your presentation. So now I would like to introduce Javier Martinez, Bellotto. Javier, welcome again to our session. So I would like to hear your presentation, but before that, could you please briefly express yourself or introduce yourself?
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction and for the opportunity to be here. My name is Javier Martinez. I'm working as a sustainable manager in ANESE, and right now I manage several development projects. And as you can imagine, we work in an association, so I work in 4 companies, Esco companies, and I try to develop the energy sector, the efficiency energy sector in Spain. So I'm going to present. One moment. Okay. So thank you very much. Sorry for the delay, but I take the opportunity to see my previous colleague's presentation. I try to go to the aspects that are new. Okay, so I try to don't repeat, because I think that it's interesting to have questions and to talk about different issues that we have here. I'm going to explain some structures, some financial mechanisms where the measure and verification is key, because at the end, I consider that the energy efficiency project is a special project, and you need measure and you need verify the energy savings, because if you don't have energy savings, you don't have economic savings. So in my opinion, measure and verification is the key, and all the programs and all the initiatives that I'm going to present depends on the energy savings. So depends on the measure and the verification. So first of all, briefly, I would like to present our association. ANESE is the Spanish Esco Association. Right now, I think that there are 111 companies. Most of them are Escos, but also there are technology partners, there are even banks, investment funds, consultancy firms, utilities, because at the end, we represent all the value chain of the energy services in Spain. But most of the companies are Escos, maybe 6% of the companies who are in ANESE are Escos. So more or less, this is my index. I would like to present general data about the energy performance contracting. And then I'm going to present 3 different points of view on how to apply these mechanisms, that all mechanisms use the measure verification as a tool to transform the energy savings into economic savings. I think that my colleagues explain how works the Esco model. So this is a figure that you can hear and you can obtain, because I would like to share my presentation. But at the end, of course, during the contract, you need verify how many kilowatts hours are you saving, because you have to divide a part for the client and a part for the Esco in order to obtain the payback of the initial investment. Okay, and of course, at the end of the project, all the savings go for the customer. Okay, I think that I don't like to repeat a lot of. So now I'm going to share several general data. In ANESE, we done an energy efficiency market report. It's 2 years. And here you can see a general data, more or less the contract in an Esco model between the client and Esco is 7 or 8 years old, 7 or 8 years length, sorry. The average budget is 500,000 euros of the project. And very important, the energy savings are over 30% of the initial situation. Okay, this is a general picture of the market in Spain and in Portugal, because this year we did this energy efficiency market in Portugal and in Spain. And why I think that the measure and verification is the key element of all this story of all the energy efficiency sector, because you can link the results, the physical results, the energy results, with the financial aspects. Okay, and of course, it's a way to present the results in a simplified way. And of course, thanks to the Esco model, thanks to the measure and verification, all the savings. Right now in ANESE, as you can see before, we have companies, we have banks in the association. And why we have banks? Because they really know that the energy sector is consistent, is rigorous, and they want to invest, they want to fund this kind of projects. So now suddenly there are new financial players in this energy efficiency sector. And of course, it's because you can transform energy savings to economic savings in a coded way. Of course, you need this kind of protocols, you need measure, you need experts, and you need hardware to measure that. But thanks to all this ecosystem, you can provide cash flows to these financial entities. And of course, there are guarantee mechanisms. And I think that 2 or 3 years ago in Spain, we discovered the first energy savings insurance. This insurance can provide a guarantee for the client, and they provide energy savings like a guarantee during the first 5 years of the project. Okay, so all of them, thanks for these protocols and this kind of measures. Now, I'm going to start with present several innovative ways to sell energy efficiency. Here you can see a table. The right side is the energy performance contracting, the current energy performance contracting, the typical. I don't stop in that because my previous partners, Omnia and Patrick, explained perfectly. But now I would like to present a new model where the measure and verification is the key. Is the servitization. Maybe you get used to use car sharing application, and you only have to pay per minutes. You rent a car and only you pay per minutes. At the end, you pay per use. On the other hand, you don't buy right now a printer. You buy a number of copies, and again, you pay per use. So right now, in this project, we are going to create a business model where you pay per use and you say, okay, efficiency as a service. This is the efficient equipment as a service. This is the good of this kind of model, the new servitization model. At the end, you are going to pay per use, and you have a periodical payment when you have to pay a consume amount per rate and a service availability charge. Okay, in order to calculate this consume amount, again, you need to measure. Okay, this is very interesting because at the end you don't need a high historical energy data for the installation, because you can have a benchmarking, so you can more or less fix a rate for your service. You can sell lighting, you can sell degrees, for example, and this is very innovative. But now we are working in this model in Spain, and we have several successful stories. Then, thanks to this model, is like an energy performance contracting. The service scope is full outsourcing of the service for client. Okay, so you cover all the services, maintaining, operation, measure, and verification. So no problem. And very interesting thing, there is no upfront investment for the client because the service provider assumes all the initial investment. So for the client, the initial investment is off balance. Okay, so for example, here, this is an interesting model, the efficiency as a service or efficient equipment as a service. And it's a model that you can implement in your companies. And I think that is very interesting for the client. Then I would like to present Patrick. I think that he mentioned the third party's finance in their presentation, but now I would like to present this model because in Spain it's very common. Maybe in big project over 1 million euros, but more. I think that I will say that nowadays the investment fund are using this model in aggregation project. So of course you can include little projects, but if you aggregate, you can create this structure. And what is this structure? This structure is a way to finance energy efficiency project using equity, using money from the investment fund. Okay, in order to avoid that the initial investment stay in the balance sheet of the Esco and the client. Okay, because the SPV, the special purpose vehicle, is the entity who obtain the debt. Okay, so the initial investment is in the SPV balance sheet. Okay, is a good way in order to an Esco can develop more projects. And why I like to explain that, because I think it's an interesting way to produce new energy efficiency project. More or less, this is the figure. As you can see here, there are 3 stakeholders. First of all, the investment fund, then the Esco, and then the client. Okay. Now, the first step is to create the SPV, the special purpose vehicle. And in this case, the creation is between the investment fund and the Esco. Okay, see, you can see the black line. In this SPV, the initial investment is paid by the investment fund. Okay, and you create a shareholders agreement. Maybe actually between a 10 or 20% of these shareholders is from the Esco side, and the rest of the shareholders is from the investment fund. Okay. Then you have to sign an energy performance contract, and in this case, the client sign the contract, the energy performance contract, with the SPV. Okay, and when this contract is signed, then you sign a contract between the Esco and between the SPV, and it's an engineering, procurement, construction, and operation management contract. So when this contract is signed, the Esco build the installation, provide the energy efficiency measures, okay, and of course the operational and maintenance services. Then, month by month, you have here the client have to pay a monthly fee to the special purpose vehicle. And of course, when the SPV receives this monthly fee, the SPV has to pay a fee for operation and maintenance to the Esco. Okay. And why I tell you about that? Because in all the projects that I know, here, in order to calculate this monthly fee to the client for the SPV, there is a measure protocol in the back office. So here you can see other example where the measure and verification is the key to create this kind of structures in order to develop the energy sector. And of course, these protocols are used in the public sector. And now I would like to talk about the public guarantee fund. Why a public guarantee fund? Okay, it's a way to develop the energy efficiency sector in Spain, for example, and we created this public guarantee fund, Fondo GEBE, which has obtained 5 million euros to cover no payments in the EPC project. What this means? I mean, imagine that you are a bank and say, okay, I don't know what is this of what is the energy efficiency project, so I need a guarantee. Okay, so in this case, no problem. The public entity put a box with 5 million euros in order to cover possible or potential no payments. So in this way, the banks can provide a loan in a better condition, in an attractive condition to the final client. So in this case, you are developing the sector, you are developing the market. In this case, the public guarantee fund is focused on residential building, okay, in order to do rehabilitation of projects. And it's interesting because in this case, there is a leverage factor 1.126. So the idea is to mobilize 30 million euros with these 5 million euros to cover no payments in the energy performance contracting projects. And again, in order to develop this project, you need a verification and measure plan and a maintenance plan to obtain the cash flows that are the main objective of the banks. Okay, so this is other way and other initiative that is very interesting, and I recommend to study at least. And other example, and I think that also Patrick mentioned, and this is an example aggregation projects, we have this project. This initiative is a European project. Is FPI, financing energy efficiency using private investments. Okay, at the end, we're looking for bridge the gap between promoters, financial institutions, banks, investment fund, and this kind of crowd-lending entities, renting, and these kind of things. So at the end, we have a current situation, a problem, because as you can see here, the average contract signing time is 10 months in the energy efficiency project. But this is before. Now, thanks to this project, we are aggregating projects in different portfolios in order to standardize the process and in order to create products more attractive for banks, for investment fund. Okay, this is more or less the idea. This is our process. Right now, these are the companies or entities who are in this project. We provide these services: technical due diligence, project aggregation, ad hoc investment mechanisms, and saving certification using blockchain technology. This is the key, of course, in order to generate confidence. And on the other side, we have more than 22 financial entities willing to fund projects. And at the top, we have projects and we have clients. And our role is to create a standard process to create these portfolios in the aggregation way. Okay. And which is the results? Right now, we have mobilized more than 14 million euros in 44 different projects. And here you can see all the kind of projects that we are mobilized: energy management, lighting, distributed solar PV. And as you can see here, there are different budgets. I mean, we have one budget of only 80,000 euros and other budget around 500,000 euros. So I think that is very interesting, this initiative, because if you aggregate, you can obtain more mechanism, more financial mechanism, and more attractive conditions. I think that is all from my side. I'm doing very quickly, but I prefer to have time to discuss or to resolve any questions. And of course, you can see here my email. And if you have any doubt, don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Javier, for your presentation. But unfortunately, we are in our time limit. So in a couple of minutes, the other session will start. So if there are any questions, we will forward them to you by your email. So thank you very much again for your presentation. It was really very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, this is unfortunately the end of our session. Because of some technical problems, we have just made a delay of 5 minutes to our start. Now in a couple of minutes, probably in a 1 minute time, the other session will start. And the moderator will be my dear friend Yasemin. She will be with us in the next session. So I would like to thank you all for joining today to our session. So hope to see you next time in another AODER event, either in the virtual environment or in the physical environment. So I wish you all good days. Thank you very much.
Thank you.